So this one they're going ape shit because this one is similar to my number. Uh, Here we have instead of 844, my phone number starts with 484, and then it's 4247. So there's like a 42 there. So it's not as crazy as when 424 484 showed up, which the odds of that are probably like 1 in 500,000 without overcomplicating the thing, or less than that. Not that I give a shit, because I don't care. It doesn't help me either way. It doesn't, to be paranoid about it, or to think of it as false as hope, which it's false hope. I just don't give a shit. Put money into my fucking PayPal account now so I can get the fuck out of here with my dog. They are torturing both of us. I do not have a mental illness. If you look at most of my videos, except, there's a few in there where I get angry because I've been tortured and terrorized for over 3 years with people ignoring me and treating me like shit. You will see that I demonstrate over, basically over 1,000 Sandy checks, and I have witnesses and other victims who have felt these energy beams aimed at my feet and aimed at and targeting other people as well. They've gone on official public written record with Travis County Sheriff's Department, and were actually interviewed along with me in person by Travis County Sheriff Sergeant, who did absolutely nothing about it. Anyway, I'm still being tortured and terrorized. I'm being sexually assaulted right now by an electrolaser. Nobody thinks that's a big deal. My dad doesn't think any type of assault is a big deal. He thinks I'm in a constant 24/7 delusional state. And he obviously doesn't think this, but he would have to think that I had, but he isn't thinking rationally or logically, because he ignores all the inputs. And he doesn't take into account that, hey, the voices told me that the guy in 301 had my stolen phone and hacked my Google account. He wasn't the guy who stole my phone. The guy that stole my phone didn't even stay at that hotel. And I have no idea how he even knew the guy and how my phone got from that guy to that guy. The guy that actually stole my phone returned to me a different phone that I traded in during the Note 7 recall, and they weren't even asking questions about it. I know this because my unlock code didn't work on it, and when I got my replacement phone, the S7 Edge, I did the Find Your Phone tool, and lo and behold, my old phone was not at the AT&T store, but it was at a 301, or right outside it, or in the room above it. And then when I did a security audit trail, when my password was changed a few days prior, or a couple of days prior, I got an email address was put in that matched two Facebook profiles and one Google Plus profile, whose pictures in it appeared to be the guy in 301. And had a history of him being from Odessa, Texas. And I heard him saying that he was from Odessa, Texas when I passed him on the stairwell one time with another person, and he told me how if you stay in the hotel room after 30 days, the hotel taxes fall off. And how once his ankle monitor got off from his parole or probation, he was going to go back to Odessa. In any case, that's as much as I knew the guy. I wasn't hanging out with him. I passed him on the stairwell. We didn't touch each other. It wasn't like he picked my pocket, and that wasn't when my phone was stolen. My phone was stolen when I left it in a guy's moving van, and I didn't get it back for 4 days. And when I got it back, it wasn't the original phone that I left in there. It was the same make and model and the same color, but it had cracks in different places. And I believe it was a for store use only phone. I believe he just swiped. I have no idea why it was that important to get that complicated with it. But in any case, somehow that got into the hands of the guy in 301, or in the hands of someone inside the room of the guy in 301, or right outside it, or in the room above it. In any case, I could not have even guessed that. I could not have even suspected that, even in a paranoid, delusional, schizophrenic state, suffering from 24/7 psychoses, none of which I am actually suffering. I experienced that about 30 days after the voices introduced themselves, and since then, they have told me things that were not possible to be in my brain. They essentially told me that I was going to run into Micah Swindle, during my last arrest. And when I was moved to a unit that had Michael Swindle in it. I didn't even know he was in jail. The odds of that happening are pretty slim. And they told me in advance that was going to happen, along with other things. Like, we're going to give you hemorrhoids later today. And later that day, they gave me hemorrhoids. And I told my father and the FBI agent, coward Wayne Sampson, and I was like, hey, they told me they were going to give me hemorrhoids, and now I'm miraculously in bed, and I don't get hemorrhoids normally. Wow, now I have hemorrhoids like I've never had them before, all while just lying in bed. I wasn't pooping when I got them. I wasn't getting fucked when I got them. I wasn't like fucking with my asshole when this happened. I was simply sitting in bed or lying in bed, and that's not a way to get hemorrhoids. They also read license plates off before I see them. They read numbers off before I see them. They read ahead in books that I'm reading. They did this in jail. And they even did this when the text was on the other side of the page, continued on the other side of the page. And it was a book that I had not read before. And it wasn't a sentence in which you could guess the end of the sentence. It wasn't a common phrase or anything like that. I could not have known that. I've also read captions in comic strips before I read them. They describe events that are happening outside of my eyesight, outside of my ear sight. They describe people that will come into my view, in the next minute or two, that are not even within my view, even in my peripheral vision. They're like, hey, that guy looks like that guy. Hey, that guy looks like this guy. And I'm like, who are they talking about? And then some guy will walk in. I'm like, oh, I guess I see kind of the resemblance. Okay. He looks more like him than me, I guess. Or she looks more like her than me. Or and again, they warned of things in advance. They told me they were going to continue swelling my knee up when my knee started getting zapped. And again, I could hover my hand over my knee and I could feel the zaps, both the non-painful ones and the painful ones. And as I say that, they're fucking with my left knee right now, the same knee that they were fucking with about 6 months ago or 7 months ago when I was in the in-town suites. And I even sent that video to my father and was like, hey, Dad, they said that my knee's getting zapped, and they said that they're going to swell it up. And hey, here's another video a few hours later, Dad. Look at my fucking knee. It's swollen. I can barely. All I've been doing is walking the dog and coming back to the hotel, and that's it. And hanging out at the hotel. It's like I've been doing no physical exertion on my knee. And I told you I can feel these zaps with my hand. And they told me they were going to swell my knee up. And look at my knee now. My knee is like super swollen now. Oh my fucking God. Like, hello? That has nothing to do with mental illness, and that is not schizophrenia, and that is not nerve damage. It is impossible for that to be anything other than something being caused by another human being whose voice, or a group of human beings, whose voices I heard, modified, and warned me in advance that they were going to swell my knee up like a motherfucker. And they did. I do not have the power of premonition. That isn't my brain sensing some sort of internal injury that's about to happen to my body. And in any case, there was no reason for my knee to swell up. It wasn't an infection or anything like that. It finally went back to normal. It took a while for it to go back to normal, but it finally felt slightly normal, except for the swelling that was still not completely reduced or whatever, shrunk back to normal within 2 or 3 days. But it was still swollen probably for the next month, noticeably. And again, it wasn't an infection, because an infection just wouldn't have gone away like that and got back to normal. I know I've had infections before. That's not how they work. They leave back. If they do go away, even if you take medicine or whatever, you don't have it bled out or whatever, or you don't get the shit out of there, the pus out of there, then it hardens, and that's not what happened. This was something they were attacking under my kneecap. Under my kneecap. And they probably got the liquid that's in there that your disc, that your knee, whatever sits on. They got that. I don't even know technically what they did, but it wasn't an infection. An infection wouldn't happen that fast. If it did, it would be super hot, and it would spread. And that's not what happened here. And I wouldn't be able to feel it with my hand on the outside of my body, nor would other people be able to feel with their hands and other parts of their body. That the beams that were aimed at my feet, and they were aimed and targeting and hitting other people. But like my dad completely ignores that, and I keep doing these videos, and everyone fucking ignores them or says they think it's a suicide hotline, and it's like I need to get out of here. So like I need money to get on a plane. That's all I need. And like my dad literally wants me to kill myself, because if he didn't, he wouldn't have actively, knowingly, willfully, purposely, intentionally, consciously treated me like shit and pushed me to suicide. Not to mention his inactions and the actions and inactions of the terrorists that are gang stalking me. I am not making any of this up. All of this is true, including my dad's desire for me to commit suicide. Because logically and rationally thinking, if he did not want me to commit suicide, he could spend less than 10 seconds and put money in my fucking PayPal account so that I can get on a plane with Max and get the fuck out of here. And should he be using me as bait, which is unconscionable, then it would be much easier to get these people if they followed me on a plane like they did when I went to Boston. It would be much better if I could get enough money to get on a plane that no one else could get on, like a propeller plane or something like that, and get the fuck out of here. But no, my dad wants me to stay destitute. He took away all my resources and left me in a more remote place with less of a chance to find a job. And even when I do work, even when I'm working like on Robin's house, when I'm working on outside, or Robin and John's house, like they just like they did at the day labor place, they just zap me more and make it hurt more, and then I have to take a break because like my back feels like I just have some nasty back injury, and it's like I have nothing wrong with my back or nothing wrong with my body. I'm just getting zapped all the time. If you notice in my videos, the electrolaser videos, I'm literally demonstrate hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times simple sanity checks. If I had something that was a nervous condition or something like fibromyalgia or something neurological or something like that, or neuropathy, then it would not jump from one body part to another consistently like it does in every single video, as if a beam is hitting me. The logical and rational conclusion is that it is an electrolaser or some other type of directed energy weapon. However, electrolasers are known to have a feature in them that can cause a frostbite sensation or a freezing burn, and they can also cause burns. Therefore, the rational, logical, and the only possible thing that it is an electrolaser, because it is the only known direct energy weapon, at least the only one that's documented, to be able to cause both a burning sensation with a non-burning sensation, like just an electrical shocking sensation, and a freezing burn sensation or a frostbite sensation. No other directed energy weapons have been known to do that, or at least have not been documented like that, and are not as widely available as the electrolaser is to your local law enforcement or nearby government agency, or nearby traveling government agent, or your nearby military base. So, but more than likely it's your local law enforcement, or I guess, since it was in Austin and it's a high-tech city, I guess it could, maybe the company that makes these things is based in Austin. But in any case, I have no idea. It's not my job to find that out. And they keep telling me things that are seemingly are information being leaked from like people that I went to high school with, and people that I haven't seen in a while, even from my dad. They keep telling me things from my past. Now, since you are in the second stupidest group of bitches in the entire fucking world, I will go ahead and tell you again. They have been doing that to me for about 3 years. Maybe not like probably about at least 2.5 years. For over 2.5 years, they have been doing things like that to me for a long time. And they have information that I'm like, how did you know that? And they're like, well, we hypnotized you. And there is a drug that can be used to hypnotize people that Vice News did, where you can literally give it to someone and they will literally do your bidding or answer any question, like, honestly. Now, I have no idea if that's what they did to me. They also keep saying that they can get answers from you in your sleep. I don't believe that. I don't give a shit either way. However it is, they've been watching me and watching the people in my house and many other people around me that I've interacted with for 6 to 10 years. And it is not rational to think that an entire household of people over a 2 or 3 year period went suddenly like had psychoses and schizophrenia and paranoia all at the same time. George Longoria, my best friend, about a year and a half before I lost my house, before he left my house, he started getting paranoid, and it went through a sad phase and then an angry phase, and he thought he heard me talking behind his back very clearly several times. I would never do that about anyone. I would never do that to anyone. Certainly not in a really bad way. If anything, I might, be bringing something up in a humorous way. I have nothing bad to say about George. He was my best friend. I loved him. And again, and I wasn't even talking about him. I wasn't even talking to anyone the last time. He was like, I heard what you said. And then he thought like the room in between us were talking about him and making fun of him. I didn't hear anything coming from that room, and I sent them to the garage just in case they were being loud. And I was like, well, maybe he can hear them more than I can because maybe my closet like muffles their sound, and maybe that's it or something. I sat in that room. It was perfectly quiet, and George was still sending me text messages going, oh, ha, 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 whatever, like still thinking there were people in here laughing and talking about him behind his back. Now, George is not schizophrenic. I don't believe he has ADD either, although I could be wrong on that. I don't believe Tom has ADD either, or ADHD or whatever, and I don't think Tom has fibromyalgia. But, so, George doesn't hear voices anymore, and and then a year and a half later, I'm hearing my dad and other people on a soundboard, along with George Longoria. It's like, the odds of it happening are astronomical. And when you add into the fact, when you add to the facts that these people told me in advance of things that were not even possible to be in my brain, even as a guess or hunch, or even in a paranoid delusional schizophrenic state and suffering psychoses. It is impossible. And people keep ignoring that, like my sister, because they keep gangstalking her unbeknownst to her, and I know she doesn't believe this, but when she gets angry and she's like, nobody believes you, like you're meth head, blah. In any case, I am not. And anytime these incidents have happened, I haven't been on anything. I haven't been drunk. I haven't been high. I haven't been sleep deprived. I haven't been, I'm not an emotionally disturbed individual, surprisingly so from what they've put me through. But again, if you are leaking information to them intentionally or unintentionally, I don't understand how this information would come up unless you were trying to intend to give me a secret message of hope. Stop doing that, because it doesn't help, because it's false hope, because they've been doing that to me for about 3 years now. And they like every few seconds they're like, it's about to be over, Kip. And this is what they're saying to me right now, and they're playing like na, 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 na. They're like, oh, it's over, it's about to be over, Kip. Oh, yay, everyone's so happy, yay, everyone's gonna be hugging you and blah 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 blah, and it's about to be over, and we're still attacking you, and we're still saying this thing like it's about to be over. Doesn't it feel like it's like hopeful and it's about to be over? No, of course not. It doesn't feel like that at all. And I keep hearing the Dudley and Bob things, and they keep talking about the audience of one or audience of 1.5. And it's like, you are literally letting me be sexually and physically assaulted and doing not a goddamn thing about it. If there was a little girl being raped and beaten and stabbed in here, and you risked losing the perpetrators indefinitely by attending to the safety of the little girl, you would not hesitate to make sure that that little girl was safe. You would not send false messages of hope by text message to the person that was to the person or the group of people that were beating and raping and stabbing her. You wouldn't. And you wouldn't wait minutes or hours or days or weeks or months or years before making sure that that little girl was safe. You would literally go in there and get the girl to safety. Maybe calling for backup, But you wouldn't sit there, even in a hostage situation, if they were threatening her life, you wouldn't let them continue to beat and rape and stab her just because they said, well, we're going to kill her if you don't, if you come in here, or if you let them know, if you let her know that, like, you believe her, or, blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit. This is the most ridiculous, biggest bag of bullshit I have ever experienced. Like, they have wasted more than 6 years of my life, and they may have been fucking with my life even before that when I was at the fourplex. So we're talking 6 to 10 years of my life that they fucked up. In particularly the last 6 years, along with George's life, along with Tom and Betsy's life, maybe even his ex-wife Tara, maybe even Earl Riddell at EMDs, maybe even Jenny Lindman at EMDs. She doesn't even know why she was, like, confined to a wheelchair, a motorized wheelchair, for about a month, I believe. She thought it had to do with silicone implants, and there was no leaking. And it's like, and Earl was going through something at that time, or where he couldn't even think or concentrate. And they've mentioned it. They take blame for everything anyway, just because they're fucking assholes, and they like to keep people guessing and guessing and guessing and guessing. But it would make sense. But in any case, they've been in my life for 6 to 10 years. I know that for a fact. And they're the reason why Robin has vertigo sometimes. She thinks it's because of water in her ears. And technically it could be. But I've also been suffering vertigo as well. That is pretty unusual for both of us to experience vertigo when we've never experienced that before in our lives. And they also will warn me right before it happens sometimes. Or when it does happen, they'll speak to me like that. That is very unlikely for schizophrenic voices to talk about your injuries or your suffering, or especially in advance of it. I don't have the power of premonition. I don't have sight beyond sight. They also push things like very thick, heavy glasses full of crystal light knockoff off of the dresser twice. And I know for a fact the second time, because I was, paying more attention that time. And the first time I wasn't paying attention. And I thought, well, maybe I just put it near the edge and I didn't notice it. The second time, I made sure that it wasn't anywhere near the edge of the dresser. And again, I didn't bump the dresser. It wasn't even within arm's reach when it got knocked off. At least the second time. I wasn't reaching for it when it got knocked off. It literally got pushed off the dresser. And I literally get pushed around every single day. I sit on the toilet or whatever, they push me forward. I walk past the bathroom where the thermostat is, and they always knock me into it. And I don't mean like I always accidentally knock it. I mean they literally push me to the side. These electrolasers, or whatever other devices that they have, I'm assuming it's still the electrolaser, can literally push you. I have so many videos where I'm like, my back is being crushed. It feels like there's a weight on me. When I put my hand over it, my hand feels a force pushing down on it or pushing against it. And when I move my hand away, my head or back or whatever body part, or like my crotch, was feeling the force pushing down on it. And then it didn't when my hand was over it. And when I put my hand away, it feels the force pushing down on it again. And in jail, when I would lie in bed, I'm like, I feel this force pushing down on me. I would lift the blanket, or not the blanket, but the sheet up, the thinnest sheets in the fucking world. That would normally, drift down very slowly like a parachute or whatever. When I flip the sheet up and then like let it drift back down. No, it would come back. It would come back down immediately as if weights were tied to like every single thread in the sheet, and they would cling to my side. That is not normal. When they crush my feet sometimes, I can literally feel the shoes or the boots. I can literally feel the tops of them crushing down onto my foot. Not just the force of the electrolaser beam or whatever it is. I literally feel the top of the shoe, the roof of the shoe. I literally feel the inside of it pushing down on my foot when they're crushing them. They can do it at various degrees. It's like it literally sometimes feels like there's another human being stepping on the top of my shoes. That is not normal. And they attack Max too. They'll make my ears itch, and then they'll start making Max's ears itch. And they're like, "Look, we're making Max's ears too. Now we're doing it to you too. Now you know that that's us, and that's not just a normal dog itch. That's why he's itching excessively today, because we're doing like the ear itch thing. And we're doing it to both of you today. Doesn't that suck? Haha, we're torturing your dog, and you can't do anything about it. That's why they're taking so long to get to you, because we keep threatening your dog's life if they do anything like let you know. It's like you are letting terrorism win. You are literally letting them have everything that they want, even after they get caught. Because you are literally letting so much time of my life be wasted and years or decades be shaved off from the continuous, irreparable damage to my body and psyche that is undeniably happening. You cannot say that these things aren't causing damage. They have caused damage, and not to mention the damage to my psyche, which surprisingly I'm still sane and I'm still sober, and I have been for my entire fucking life. So, in any case, I think people do know, or I don't. I can't get in that spot where I'm like, well, I think that they know, because it doesn't matter anyway, because you're not any better. You're not much better than they are, because you are giving me false hope, and then nothing happens. Like there was a fucking Beanie Weenie can given to me, and they're like, ooh, that's your father, like sending you a message saying that he's listening to you, and like he heard you talking about the Beanie Weenie comment, how he used to eat Beanie Weenies, and how he's like afraid to be destitute, and that's been one of his fears, and that's why he's so stingy sometimes, or so frugal when he doesn't have to be. And it's like, whatever. And Dad, like, fuck off with the goddamn storage. Okay? Don't touch my fucking storage. I'm sorry that you've been paying for it every month, but you wouldn't have to be paying for it every month if you fucking did what I asked, and everyone would be getting a settlement in a class action lawsuit, including you, including Robin and John, including me and George, and hundreds or thousands of victims in the Austin area and Austin and Travis County area and across the country, both from the city and the county, because of the police and sheriff's department that fuck everything up and don't do their fucking job, and not to mention every single hospital that I've been to, and medical facility, who released my medical information illegally and unlawfully, and who fucked things up too, and are forcibly sedating sober, sane people, and also people that like may be on something, but it's like, or maybe already have a mental illness, but then this shit happens to them anyway, because they target those demographics. Because who's going to believe someone who shows up positive for meth, even though they did that 3 days ago, or someone that shows up positive for marijuana when maybe they smoked 2 weeks ago or a week ago and didn't smoke that day, and even if they did, it's never caused a reaction like they've had before. So, like, think of every single hospital I've been to. That's 2 or 3 hospital networks, or now 3 or 4 that I've been to, that have forcibly sedated me against my will, against all reason, against, at times without even performing a medical exam at all. Not even with the nurse triage, not even with the doctor. Walked in, asked how everybody was, and then walked out. And at the other hospital, I'm suffering pain, and I'm describing to them that it's from an electrolaser that the local law enforcement have. I'm like, I'm not suffering psychoses. I'm not on anything. I'm not high. And I was literally seizing in front of them, going, and they sedate you. So someone comes in there that has a toothache or suffering pain because they broke their bone. So if they're screaming out in pain, you're going to forcibly sedate them. I mean, of course, if they need to have an operation or whatever, but you're not going to document it correctly, and you're going to continuously try to forcibly or offer them a sedation when they're like, I don't need to be sedated. I need to get escape from these people with the electrolasers. These are a real thing. And not one single person is like, well, what would happen if someone with an electrolaser on a drone or handheld went around, firing on people, which can be done from hundreds of yards away and from a drone, so they can be removed, with a wireless controller, even more hundreds of yards away, and even further if it's, mapped, if it's networked or, piped through satellites, like they do with bigger drones. And I don't think they do that with these. I think they are local, but it doesn't mean they can't be networked in on it. They do have bigger drones that fly around that are flown like thousands of miles away from where the people are controlling them. But I don't believe those are these drones. I'm not a paranoid person. I don't think the worst case scenario, but it could be. But it doesn't matter. Not one person thinks, what if this happened? Oh my God, we have local law enforcement that have electrolasers. Well, they're attached to drones. You know, they also have the ability to listen in on your houses and to see into your houses anyway, with the same equipment, with the drones or with drones and other equipment that they have for hostage and crisis scenarios, so that they can see where gunmen are if someone takes over a building or there's like, you know, some sort of mass shooting or whatever that's going on, or hostage situation. But they get to use those like 0 to 1 days out of the year, right? You know, so they get to use them 0 1 days out of the year. So the rest of the year they're like, on duty and off duty. Let's go spy on people. Oh, now we have an attachment that can shock the person through the walls. Wow, let's start vibrating people and shocking them. It can mimic illnesses without the person even knowing that there's anything like external happening to them. It can mimic fevers, and they're starting to heat my face up as I say that. And it can mimic other things. That's why Tom thought he had fibromyalgia. First, that I had lupus or something like that. And it's like, maybe that's the reason my dad's arm went numb. Although that was a very long time ago. It's like, but who the fuck knows, you know? But in any case, and now they've added voice to skull technology on them, so that they can talk up, so they can you know, communicate without opening a phone line or getting the phone number, with, you know, the people that are taking people hostage or shooting or something like that, and so that they can communicate with victims and route them to safety, and so that they can subliminally talk the bad people down, you know, or confuse them, you know, or make them think that there's more people in there. And that's why they have the projection capability on there as well, so they can make it seem like they can really fucking confuse the person, and they can literally put the bad guy in a state of psychosis, a man-made psychosis. But instead of doing that to bad guys, they do that to all these good people around the fucking town. And then they just have fucking fun with it. And then when the person like has money or whatever and could investigate it, then they just keep fucking over that person until they have no resources left, and until their family doesn't believe them anymore. And in doing so, and to accomplish that, they had to gang stalk my family too, so that they could literally be angry anytime I corrected them on something that they were wrong on, politely so, and anytime I begged them simply for a third-party investigation, which was promised to me. And the only reason why my father didn't do it was because I didn't provide a second contact to him, because he was too lazy and too much of a fucking dickhead to Google it his fucking self. Well, you lived in Austin. I thought it would be easier. I'm fucking Googling it, motherfucker. Same as you. Why would it be easier for me? Because I'm in Austin and I'm the victim. And I told you in the email